Okay, working with the limitations of my camera here, and I'm on my laptop, so I'm going to do a brief tour of my tool cabinet. I think it all shows up this time. My original test, not so much. So I'm going to close it up, and I will start with the closed tool cabinet, and then we'll open it up. So the tool cabinet built out of Baltic birch. It's about 45 inches high. It's about 36 inches wide. Baltic birch with pine trim. I've got Danish oil, no other finish on it. And I got major cobwebs because I always leave the doors open in the shop. So because I'm in and out of it quite a bit. And a cheesy hook and eye on here, which will be replaced by something a little nicer. So opening up the doors, you can then see they're about, I want to say they're about 5 inches thick. Not 100% sure. If you look over here, starting on the left, I've got some winding sticks here. And these winding sticks I made, one of the first things I made, using a real thin piece of walnut. And these are just pine, but they were pretty stable, made it a little triangular thing. These help you to be able to flatten boards. We're looking at the mallets up here. I made these two. Actually, I've got one more in a tool chest, which I'll show in a later video, but I made these two, and then these are all store-bought, and this is my Billy Baloo hammer. It's just a hickory-handled claw hammer. I've had it for 20-some years. It's just my favorite hammer. Got some little carving chisels here. The steel on these is so soft it won't even really take an edge without chipping. These are really, really good, but I'm not much of a carver yet. So I got these on a tool deal from a fellow that was a friend of mine who passed away. Down here I've got Narex mortise chisels. I really like those. They work really well. Directly below those I've got a couple of Buck Brothers, a 1/2 and 1/4 inch. These I use for rough work on chump change wood. These are my Stanley Sweethearts. There's everything from let's see, we got 1/4, we got 3/8, we got 1/2, we got 3/4, we got 1 inch. These are Imperial, so I really like those. They hold an edge pretty well. I've got a couple of DeWalt screwdrivers here. I've got a flat head Phillips head. Then I got a couple of no-name magnetic screwdrivers. I got a flat head and a Phillips head, and then I got a couple of just genuine regular screwdrivers, flat head and a Phillips head. Behind here, I got a Robert Sorby 1/8 inch mortise chisel, but I don't use it for that. I just use it because, well, I guess I could use it, but I use it for just because I need an 1/8 of an inch chisel sometimes. These are Aldi chisels. Now the Aldi chisels, there's no handle. The handles are not like this. The handles are shaped completely differently. But I hated the handles so bad that what I did was I spoke shaved them down, and let's see, get in the camera here. I spoke shaved them down and then just put a urethane finish on them, and I kind of like the way they turned out. They feel good in the hand. Now I use these quite a bit. The only thing about the Aldi chisels is that they're metric. So that was a 24 millimeter, which is like 0.94 inches. So if you're working with, metric, you need to work with metric. So I don't use them. I use my Stanleys when I'm doing Imperial, and then when it doesn't matter, I'm using the Aldis. Now the Aldis do surprisingly well. Over here in this center cabinet here, I have all three of these are antiques. I think I paid about $15 for one of them, and maybe $10, and maybe 10 or $15. I've got these are Diston, and I think all three of them are number 8s. But as you can see, that's a skewed, got the skewed top, skewed back, I should say, skewed back, sorry. And then there's another Diston number 8. This one does too, but it's a lot wider, as you can see. It's also a number 8. I've got 2 of these filed for rip, and one of them filed for cross cut. Or actually, I think it's this is also a Diston number 8. It's got the this actually has a Diston medallion on it. I use these quite regularly, and I was wrong. I have 2 filed for cross cut and 1 filed for rip. Couple of coping saws here. Nothing special about those. And I made this little box out of some scrap. Inside of it, I've got a marking knife. I've got several dovetail markers. Got a 1-in-7, a 1-in-7, and then this one I made out of a piece of walnut is also a 1-in-7. I marked them so I would know, because my plan is to potentially make different variations. This is one I bought. It's got a 1-in-5 and a 1-in-8. So the 1-in-7, according to Paul Sellers, whose template I use to make these dovetail markers, are 1-in-7 was a good compromise for both hardwood and softwood. So in theory, you just use a 1-in-8 for softwood and a 1-in-5 for hardwood. Up here, up top, we're looking at 3 Lie-Nielsen saws. These are the result of me getting gift cards over the years. By the way, I started getting hand tools into hand tools in 2016. This is the very end of 2023. So as you can tell, it's taken 7 years to get here. So and a lot of gift certificates from family at Christmas time. So I've got a tenon saw, I've got a carcass saw, and I got a dovetail saw. The dovetail saw, very nice example, Lie-Nielsen dovetail saw. Loving these handles. These handles fit me very, very nicely. I like them a lot. Coming over here, looking at Stanley number 151 spoke shape, bought at Grainger for 20 bucks. This is a Stanley number 51, with the main difference being that this one does not have the adjuster knobs on top. These spoke shaves get used. I absolutely use them. They are not easy to sharpen. For me, there's a jig or thing out there you can make. I have not made it. I usually run them at 25 degrees, but this is a Stanley number 51, and it does a nice job. They're hanging wrong. It does a nice job. This is a Stanley number 80 cabinet scraper. When I first saw this, I thought it was some sort of a plane, and it is, but I thought it was like a spoke shave type of thing. Didn't realize how to even use it. I sharpened the bevel on the current bevel that was on it, which was 25 degrees. They say 45 degrees online. I don't know, but I sharpened it 25 degrees. You put a little burr on it with a burnisher, and she rolls, man. I mean, it'll take out a lot of garbage. This was my very first dovetail saw. It is a Veritas dovetail saw. There's a very cool handle on here. It's way more modern and sleek looking. However, I've cut my teeth cut my teeth on dovetails with this saw. I've just noticed I've got a chip out of there, and I don't know where that chip went to or came from. But at any rate, very good saw. It was like 70 bucks when I bought it. I don't know what they are now. Maybe they're 90 bucks now with the price of everything these days. But it's still a heck of a deal, and it works really well. But when I got that gift certificate, I wanted to try that Lie-Nielsen. I took a dovetail class years ago and wanted to try the Lie-Nielsen dovetail saw, and I couldn't afford it. Right here we got a Wood River spoke shave. It's a different configuration than what I'm used to, but it works really well. I can get it to take some really, 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 really thin shavings. Really like that. Coming down here, we've got a Stanley number 7 jointer. This one was made around 1918. I've got a Miller Falls. This is a number 15, which I believe is equal to the 5.5 in the Stanley thing. I use this for my shooting plane. It's very heavy, and I use it in this, let's see, just like this for shooting boards to flatten the edges. This is a Stanley number 5 Handyman, which they say is not really good, but it's been good for me. I've actually used it as a smoother. This I bought at an antique place some years back, and it was already set up, and I mean it was like butter. So I've tried to maintain that. It's a really good plane, even though the Handymans are the cheap versions, I guess. Here is the first new hand plane I ever bought. This is a Wood River number 4. If I can't compare it to Lie-Nielsen or Veritas, any of the other big names out there, or Clifton's or anything else, but I will say this is really heavy. But I will say this, that with a sharp blade, this bad boy will seriously take off some thin shavings. It is a really, really good smoother, or at least it's really good because I've gotten it figured out how to use it. This is a Miller Falls number 9, either number 9 or number 90 CBG. I think it's like a number 3 because it does have the wide mouth, but it's shorter. So maybe it's Miller Falls version of a number 4. I don't know. Over here is my second Stanley Handyman number 5, and it is not as tuned as well as this number 5. However, it does a really good job on rough stock. I do have the blade very sharp, and I usually use this with a deeper cut if I want to hog some stuff off while I'm flattening or while I'm just trying to get down to a measurement, and I've got a 1/4 inch to take off or an 1/8 of an inch. I can use this, and then I can smooth it with a pass from the number 4. Now, what do I use in here? So I use every one of these. I've not used these yet, but I've tried to use these, and then steel's crummy. I use all of this. I use all of these chisels on a regular basis. The saws get used on a regular basis. In the plane department, I use the number 7 sometimes. I use the number 5.5 every time I shoot a board, which is not constantly, but every time I shoot a board, that's what I'm using. I use this number 5 to help get me flat and to help get nicer things flat and trimmed out. I have used it as a smoother before. It does a pretty decent job. This one was really tuned. This Wood River, use it all the time. This, I use it all the time, but not necessarily on the finer stuff. It depends on what I'm doing. If it's small parts, big parts. It does have a corrugated bottom, which doesn't seem to affect it much. Up here, this is a transitional. I haven't figured out how to dial this one in really well, so I don't use it very much. This I have used for some really roughing out. This is a Chinese Stanley knockoff, number 4, and it's not very good. It won't hold an edge really well on the steel, and the measurements do come out, but to hog something off in a hurry, it's not too bad. Stanley number 71 router plane, use it a lot. Anytime I'm doing fine and tuning any grooves or dados or anything like that, this is the tool to have. I got a little baby Lie-Nielsen small router plane that I got as a result of gift certificates under $100, or it was under $100 a year or two ago. This is a little bit of a Stanley block plane and maybe another Franken plane configuration. If you know what it is, maybe you can tell me. It does have the adjustable mouth, and but I took two planes that looked identical and made one plane out of them because one of them had a cracked piece here. So if you know what it is, perhaps you can tell me. I think that covers everything in here. Down here, I've got a Stanley 45 plow plane. This is the old Stanley 45 here. And I got two boxes of cutters with it. And it's got both the jet stops that came with it. I think it's almost 100% complete. And I paid, I think, something like $110 for it on an auction. Over here, I got a Lee Nielsen 48 tongue and groove plane. This is the large tongue and groove plane. That's brand new, haven't used it yet. And I'll pause for a minute. Okay, moving on. Stanley number 48, which I just showed. This is pretty cool. This is the large tongue and groove plane. This, you flip it this way, and you are now cutting you're using one of the cutters, and you're cutting a groove, and then you pull a pin and you spin this bad boy around, and now you've exposed both, and you are now cutting the tongue. So it's very cool. I wanted one for a long time. Once again, I can't afford Lee Nielsen tools without some help from the family when they give me gift certificates, and when they do, this is the type of thing I get. This is a Stanley number 192, basically just a rabbit plane. It's got a depth stop. It has a sprue cutter. So I haven't used this much. I've tried it out. I sharpened the blade, but since it's adjustable, it's tap adjustable, I have a little bit of difficulty getting it, absolutely dialed perfectly. Over here, I've just got assorted molding planes. Most of these are bead planes, but I do have one hollow, one round, and a couple of rabbit planes over here as well. So, moving on to the other door over here, we'll come around to this side, and what you can see here is you may not be able to see all of it in perfect orientation, but the door won't stay. It wants to go to its open position. I'll do the best I can. So I've got an antique bevel gauge here. This is a newer one I bought at Lowe's or Home Depot. It's a Swanson. It does a good job. Down here, I've got a 6-inch combination square, 12-inch combination square. These are both Swansons. Look, not top of the line, but they do the job. Got a couple of straight edges here, or actually a couple of rulers here. In the center part here, we're looking at a bunch of tri-squares. These are antiques. This one is newer. I use it a lot. All the time, as a matter of fact. This one I use a lot. It is also newer. That's like a 9-inch, 10-inch tri-square. I've got pencils down here in the box, and I've got awls over here. Got several different kinds of awls. I've got the Shinto rasp right here, which does a really good job. I got just a rasp back here, and there's a couple of files here. They're just, I haven't figured out the nuances of using rasps and things. I just use them to hog off stuff, to round things over, to channel things out. Up here I got marking gauges. This one is newer, was actually the first one I bought. It has a double pin on one side and a single pin on the other side, so you can mark various and sundry mortises or for tenons, for mortises. This one is an antique. It actually has a knife, little knife blade on it, as you can see, and it's got a little wedge that holds it in. This is just a Wood River single wheel marking gauge. It does a good job. Probably use that one more than anything. This is a Veritas double wheel marking gauge. And that's just about it. Oh, moving on up. So we got I got just a draw knife I purchased at an antique place for like 10 or 15 bucks. Sharpened it up, does a really good job. It's just a run-of-the-mill draw knife. This one is an antique, and it's very cool. I'll try to show you how this one opens up. These handles are released by these buttons right here, which you push out and you pull out like this, and it locks in. And if I can do this without cutting myself, we'll see if I do it this way. You can see better. And pull that out. This draw knife is sweet. I did look up the provenance on this one. As a matter of fact, this is from J.S. Cantel, Boston, Massachusetts, June 30th, 1891. So this is a really very cool. You pull these pins back out to collapse them, collapse the handles back in, and that way it's pretty safe to transport and carry. I really like that. Up here, last but not least, is a middle to late 1800s wooden jointer. It does have a broken horn on it, but the blade is really in good shape, and I have used it. It does a good job. Is it dead flat? Hey, I don't know the answer to that, but it is definitely able to do the job. I have used it. So that's it. That's the brief tour of the tool cabinet. I hope that it was somewhat informative, and I hope that you'll stick around for future videos where maybe we'll get into building some stuff. Thank you, and have a great, blessed day.